Hello, Silver Birch Express Online Book Club members. Here we are on to our fifth book. Fourth week, fifth book. This book is, I have to say, one of my favorites. The message in it is about determination. And it's a dual English and Swahili book. So we're going to see both languages in it. So it's a dual language book, actually. And really good for ELL learners as well. This picture book was inspired by the founding of Tanzania, told through the eyes of a young boy who climbs Mount Kilimanjaro. And this signifies the country's independence, okay? This is a book written by Eric Walters and Godfrey Ngolo. It's called Light a Candle. It weaves fiction with nonfiction to tell the story of a boy coming of age in the shadow of Mount Kilimanjaro. And his father is a chief. He's a chief of this tribe, and he in Tanzania. And the boy climbs this mountain against his father's wishes because his father thinks he's too young still to fulfill a request of being the country's first leader. To light a candle on top of the mountain and to unify the mainland of all the islands of Zanzibar as one country, and the United Republic of Tanzania. So it's historic, I would say historical fiction, but it's fiction and nonfiction weaved together, which is what we call historical fiction. So here we go. Mount Kilimanjaro is here, and this is Tanzania in Africa. Light a Candle by Godfrey Ngolo and Eric Walters. And the illustrations are by Ava Campbell. Really nice illustrations as well. Ngama saw the car coming down the road. As it drove by, he waved. And the man in the back seat waved back. Ngama did not know him, but knew he had come from Ngama's village. Few cars went to their village, and he hurried home to hear why it had been there. So you can see the village here, and it's pretty sparse. There aren't a lot of people that you see out. Some animals, a lot of vegetation, and some places of dwelling. Oh, now you see the village people. Look at how colorful. Everyone was gathering in the clearing of the middle of the village. Women and small children clustered at the sides, and men stood in the center. In between were the boys who were too old to be children, but not old enough to be men. That is where Ngama went. So they might have been maybe about 14, 15 years old. Ngama's father was the chief of their clan. There he is in the red. Ngama watched as his father spoke. As the eldest son, Ngama would one day become chief like his father. His name itself, Ngama, meant tomorrow in the Kichagaga language. Baba, this is the Swahili. Oh, I wish I could read Swahili. What are they discussing? Ngama asked his friend. It has something to do with the mountain. Everything has something to do with the mountain, Ngama replied. And there's the Swahili. I was going to attempt it, but I better not. I haven't practiced that. the Chaga people lived on the slopes of Mount Kilimanjaro. The mountain was sacred. It was the place between heaven and earth. Wow, it looks very nice there. The men stopped talking and his father came toward him. The man in the car waved to me, Ngama said. He is the leader of our country, but you are the chief. I am in charge of our tribe. He is in charge of our country. He asked us to climb the mountain to mark our independence. Independence? The white people ruled, but now we are free. Tomorrow the men of the tribe will climb the mountain. I will be ready. No, Nagama. It is only the men. But I am almost a man. Not yet. Nagama did not argue, but he did not agree either. At first light, the men started up the slope. Nagama's father was at the front. Each man carried a heavy pack. It contained enough food for 3 days, a blanket for warmth and a gourd for water, and as much wood as that man could carry. As the last of the men turned the corner, one more figure trailed after them. Who was that? Nagama. Let's see what happens. Those at the back of the line saw the small boy behind them. They thought he would follow for a while, tire, and go back home. But he moved when they moved and rested when they rested. He was with them, but apart. And he's got his little backpack of goodies. All of the men had been to the top of the mountain before, some dozens of times. When people climbed the mountain, it was always with Chaga tribesmen as guides and porters. They were the people of the mountain. As they climbed higher, 2 men waited for Nagama. "You should not be here," one said. "Your father told you that you were too young to come." "That was yesterday. Today, I am not as young," Nagama replied. And it's true. Look at him. He's so funny. With each step up, there was less air to breathe and the climb was more difficult. The men stopped for the night. They gathered, taking shelter to sleep. Nagama was alone and cold. He wrapped his blanket around him tightly. Nagama awoke with a start. He caught sight of the men in the distance moving up the slope. He was cold and stiff and he wanted to go back, but instead he rushed to follow them. By now they all knew who he was with them. His father had been informed, but had answered, "I told my son not to come, so I know it is not him." Part of him was angry, but he was also proud of his son. Nagama would be a fine chief someday. You see, he's not so mad. I can see a bit of a smile on his face while he's looking at his son at the end of the line. Throughout the day, they climbed. Each step was harder than the last. The pack on Nagama's back felt so heavy, like it was trying to drag him back down to the slope. They moved on past the glaciers, past Stella Point. Each breath was harder to catch than the last. Nagama wondered if the top would ever arrive. Wow. I love all the colors. Oh, there's his dad, the chief. Finally, as the sun was setting, they reached Urdu Peak, Freedom Peak, the highest place in all of Africa. The men gathered on the peak and each removed the wood from his bundle. Nagama crept forward and added the pieces from his pack. His father held the torch in the air, ready to throw it onto the pile. He turned to Nagama and motioned for him to come forward. Nagama was afraid of what he might say. "This is for you," his father said, holding out the torch. "Me?" "This fire is for the future of our country, and the future belongs to the children, to you, Nagama. The future belongs to tomorrow." Nagama took the torch and threw it onto the pile. The flame caught, and it got bigger and bigger, so bright that it could be seen from afar. Nagama was sure it could be seen across all of Africa. The candle had been lit. Freedom had arrived. A new country had been born. And this is the whole story in English of, let me read it. Let me read it to you. The United Republic of Tanzania sits on the eastern side of the African continent. Mount Kilimanjaro, the tallest mountain in Africa, and a symbol of freedom, love, and peace, sits in northeastern Tanzania. The highest point of the mountain, Uhuru Peak, stands 5,895 meters above sea level and glistens with snow. The mountain is considered unique because it allows one to experience every environment on Earth. Desert, tropical rainforest, glacial ice, and savanna. It is said that climbing Mount Kilimanjaro is like traveling from the Arctic all the way to the equator. Living in the area around Mount Kilimanjaro are the Chaga people, who are regarded as the caretakers of the mountain. As we see in the story of Nagama, young Chaga boys traditionally went through an initiation period during which they were taught how to be independent young men. Learning from elders was an important part of this process, as girls and boys gained the skills they needed to live healthy and successful lives as young men and women. Tanzania is a country made up of what were once two separate territories, the mainland and the islands. The two parts united to form the country of Tanzania, as we know of it today. It was Julius Kambaraj Nyerere, the son of the chief of the Zanaki tribe, who led Tanzania to peaceful independence in 1961. Once a boy living an ordinary life in a small village, Nyerere became the first president of Tanzania in 1962. All his years living in the village helped Nyerere understand that what it was like to be poor and to be treated unjustly. As president, he worked to promote equality, justice, peace, and unity in Tanzania and all over Africa. Even after he retired, Nyerere continued to be a peacemaker and defender of justice, and because of him, Tanzania became a symbol of love, peace, dignity, and freedom. Before Nyerere was president, he said the people of Tanganyika would like to light a candle and put it on top of Mount Kilimanjaro, which would shine beyond our borders, giving hope where there was despair, love where there was hate, and dignity where before there was only humiliation. When Nyerere became president, he did just this, and the Uhuru torch, or freedom torch, was erected on the Mount of Kilimanjaro. Oh, this book just gives us such hope for people and this earth and everything that we're going through now. Let's think of a story like this. Let's think of hope. Thank you for listening, guys, and I'll see you next time.